Hello everyone and welcome to Sharing Vietnam on our international channel NetViet with C10. In every country, wedding is one of the most important events in everybody's lives, and Vietnam is not an exception. And traditional wedding is a beauty in Vietnamese souls. Today's program, we will share with you the story with an Australian woman who will share with us about her point of view about Vietnamese traditional wedding and the East-West harmony through this. So let's have a look at our short clip to get more information about our guest today.
Before moving to Vietnam, Ms. Tabitha Carvan lived in Sydney and worked for many years in the corporate sectors in marketing and communications. She has been living in Hanoi for 2 years working in communication. She is currently a freelance writer, editor and designer, writing regularly for Asia Life magazine and Adventures among others. Today, she has a wedding celebration with Vietnamese traditional style at her house.
Hello, Ms. Tabitha Carvan, and thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations on your wedding.
Oh, thank you very much.
As we have seen in the clip, you had a wonderful wedding in Vietnamese style. So why did you decide to have your wedding in Vietnamese style, and how do you feel?
Well, my partner and I have lived in Hanoi for 2 years, and we have seen all these kind of wedding tents appear in our neighborhood, and it looks like such a fun, casual, friendly way to celebrate a wedding. And so when we got engaged, we thought it would be a great way to include all our Vietnamese friends and foreign friends in Vietnam in our wedding celebration, the ones who can't go to Australia.
So in order to have the Vietnamese wedding, you need a lot of things to preparation. So did you need any help? And is it difficult for you to prepare all of that things?
No, we needed a lot of help. So yeah, our Vietnamese friends went above and beyond, helping us with all aspects of it. And then when it came to the actual tent and the catering and the events on the day, we turned to a Vietnamese wedding company to help us, because it was just too much to keep asking our friends all the time. But yeah, it worked out really well.
So how can you prepare for the traditional custom and the thing that you need to be a wonderful wedding in Vietnamese style?
So because my partner and I, we don't have family here, and we don't have any historical connection to Vietnam, so there are a lot of traditional elements in the Vietnamese wedding that we just couldn't incorporate. So we can't have the bride's family receiving the bride and the groom's family. We can't have ancestor rituals, anything like that. So all these wonderful, very sacred elements of a Vietnamese wedding, it's just practically impossible for us to actually have it. So for us, we are having, it's just the tent. It is just the reception, the party aspect of all those different Vietnamese traditions. So yeah, they're wonderful traditions, but I think it's hard for a foreigner to incorporate them.
So in Vietnamese, we choose a special day for the wedding. So as for you, because you have a Vietnamese style wedding, so you choose some special date for your wedding?
No, this was another aspect that we thought about, and then we realized, this is a really significant thing for the Vietnamese couple. But we don't really believe in, lucky days, or we don't have that belief. And so we realized if we were to do it, it wouldn't be meaningful, and it is almost putting down or denigrating the real significance of it. So we decided to do the Western tradition of choosing the date that suited us. That was most convenient for us and our guests. So no fortune telling. So I'm sure that you have traveled to a lot of countries in the world, and maybe you have a lot of experience in another country. So what do you think about the special thing of Vietnamese traditional style of wedding? Yeah, I think as I mentioned, all the different elements is really wonderful. But just the spectacle of the Vietnamese wedding, so the colour and the noise and the multiple outfit changes, over several days. I think it's really spectacular and really joyful, and it really conveys exactly what a wedding should be about.
So it is really amazing to listening to your sharing about your Vietnamese wedding. So we would love to share with you the Western style of wedding in Vietnam for the young couple through our clip.
If the traditional wedding brings the red color, the modern one reflects the diversity of colors. Couples can easily find all of the best flower excision to get a perfect star. A modern wedding can spread the luxury as well as show the warm open world of color in every beautiful photos of bride and groom.
Hello everyone and welcome back. So there is a point of view that in today's society the tolerance between modern and traditional factors in wedding culture is essential. So what do you think about this?
Well, I think that in Australia, for example, that what we call a traditional wedding now in Australia is still very different to how a traditional wedding would have been 100 years ago or 50 years ago. And I think that is just natural for those kind of traditions to evolve, alongside changes in society. And I'm sure that the same thing is happening here in Vietnam.
So we have now a model society and a lot of things change, but how can we what can we do to keep all the secret things for our tradition and custom?
Well, I think that despite all the changes in the wedding trends, that the actual act of getting married, the union of two people, stays the same throughout time, and that is the most important thing. But I also think that the modern Vietnamese weddings that I've been to are still, they might have a superficial resemblance to a Western modern wedding, but they're still very Vietnamese, in atmosphere and in spirit. And I think that they might seem modern or not traditionally Vietnamese on the surface, but actually I am sure that they are completely maintaining the Vietnamese spirit in a new way.
So have you ever had any friends of yours, Western one, who come to Vietnam to celebrate their wedding like you?
Well, we had an Australian girlfriend marry her German husband here in Vietnam, but they actually met in Vietnam and they have lived here for several years, so for them Vietnam was a very special place. But they got married a few months ago in Hoi An, and it was wonderful. Yeah.
So what do you think about that trend? A lot of foreigners now choose Vietnam as a destination for them to celebrate their weddings.
Well, I think that, so there are foreigners like my friends and us that have a special connection, we've lived here, and also there are a lot of overseas Vietnamese who come back to get married here because Vietnam is very special to them. So I think that is one group of foreigners getting married here, and the other is foreigners who don't have a connection to Vietnam but are choosing it as a destination wedding to turn their wedding into a kind of holiday wedding in one, and also to save on costs. And I think it's a great opportunity for Vietnam, and I'm sure that it will only grow.
So wedding is very important. The celebration of the wedding is very wonderful, but the life after the wedding is wonderful and important too. So what do you think about this, and what do you share with the Vietnamese people?
Yeah, I think I'm sure everyone would agree. The wedding is just one day, and the marriage is the lifetime that comes after it, and it's definitely much more important to focus on the lifetime than this one day. Yeah.
So do you think that with the foreigners implementing a Vietnamese wedding style is difficult, but it is the way to understand more about Vietnam?
Well, my partner and I definitely, having our Vietnamese style wedding, helped us understand Vietnamese culture better, especially about the right way or the appropriate way to do a whole range of a number of things. And it also made us feel much more connected to Vietnam and made us feel so welcomed, wonderful. But I think that there is a level of understanding. It's a surface level of understanding because we are not Vietnamese. I mean, these are not our...
So it is wonderful to see the Western type wedding in Vietnam, and vice versa, we see the Western people come here to celebrate their wedding in Vietnamese style. So before continue with our today talk show, we will have a short break and look at the traditional Vietnamese wedding.
In every country, wedding is always one of the most serious things of human life. Wedding in Vietnam is no exception. Whether at any time, wedding is still beauty in Vietnamese styles. Through many periods of time, Vietnam's traditional wedding has been modernized and it brings a lot of aspects of a Western wedding. However, the traditional beauty has been preserved.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sharing Vietnam, a talk show with our Australian bride that have a special Vietnamese wedding. So after the wedding in Vietnam, we know that you will come back to your country and have your special wedding like in Australia. So could you please share with us about this?
Yeah, so our wedding in Australia will be our legal marriage. Our Vietnamese wedding is a wedding celebration, calling it. So it'll be a small wedding, well, smallish, 120 people in a small venue in Sydney. In the evening, it'll be a civil ceremony and the reception in the same venue, and it'll be no tables with food and drinks. It'll be kind of cocktail style, and just speeches and music and dancing. So a very kind of informal Western style wedding.
Mm-hmm. So what about your plan after that wedding? You will come back to Vietnam and continue your work in Vietnam?
Yeah, so my partner and I will come back and stay in Vietnam for about another 6 months after that, and then we will have been here for almost 3 years, and time to move on and go back to Australia at that point, I think. Yeah.
So in every country's wedding is very wonderful, and the people all around the world have their own special way to celebrate their wedding. So on this occasion, we're talking a lot about weddings. So what would you love to say to the audience in Vietnam about your feeling about Vietnamese traditional one, about the Western one, about the change, about everything?
I think just very simply, thank you for welcoming us and other foreigners into Vietnam, and to make us feel comfortable enough that we can, share your culture and traditions, and to kind of share in the joy of this very special moment. Yeah, it's just thank you, I think.
So thank you once again for joining and sharing with us today, and we wish that after both of the wedding in Vietnam and in Australia, you will have a wonderful life with your partners.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you very much for your watching, and we hope that you enjoy our show today. I see you next time.